All right, guys, we've got some amazing stuff to go over in today's video. All right, it's going to be really jam-packed. We're going to revisit a little bit of old info that's very important, okay? Some people just don't seem to grasp the certain concepts that we're going over in the videos. And, right now I have a lot of people keep hitting me up, every day, every other day. All right, is the time to short? Is it time to short this? Is it time to short that now? 7-week win streaks, and we really ended up going on an 8-week win streak. We'll see how long that happens, but those are not bearish, and those tend to happen in bull markets. Okay, and we went over how the average return 1 month later, okay, is 1%. The average return 3 months later is 3%. 6 months it's 3%, and 12 months it's 8%. So I mean, while it's not screaming outrageously bullish, it doesn't seem like it's telling anyone to short, right? Now, if we go into the Santa Claus rally, okay, and we talk about some of the Santa Claus rally data here below, right? Just so you guys know, just to be clear, the Santa Claus rally is the final 5 trading days of a calendar year and the first 2 of the following year, okay? So just think of that real quick, all right? A lot of people have their own ideas of what the Santa Claus rally is. I have an entire dedicated video to the Santa Claus rally that has, most of the data that I'm going over right now in it, but a little bit more. And it's also got some back test, but I want to revisit it. Okay. Cause I'm still getting people hitting me up asking if it's time to short. I have no, really plans at all of stepping in front of this freight train that's been a bull market and been obliterating the shorts. Now, if things change, I'll be the first one to tell you, hey guys, maybe now is time to short. But at the moment, we're not seeing any of those conditions. We have data to really back that up, right? So that's what the first slide is. If we go down here, this is the trifecta, okay? And so what this is this is combining the Santa Claus rally and then the first 5 days of January, and then the overall return of January gives you a really good idea of what the returns could possibly be in 2024. Now, remember, it's also an election year, okay? Now, we're not going to get too into conspiracies and things like that. But statistically, election years aren't the greatest out of the 4, election year cycle, but they do tend to be green. All right. Remember that. And, the last thing somebody wants if they're running for a re-election is the stock market down 20%. Okay. That's just common sense. All right. It doesn't really, you don't have to be much of a conspiracy theorist to believe that. Now, if the Santa Claus rally is green, and then the first 5 days of January are green, and the overall return for January is green, the full year return is green 100% of the time, on average, about 27% returns. Now, I'm not telling you guys we're going to have 27% returns next year. That would be awesome. But I don't necessarily think that's going to be, the case. But I do think that this data right here is very nice. And if we can get the Santa Claus rally first 5 days in January overall to be green, I think that we will end up having another green year in the stock market overall. Now, if we take a look and remember just a few days ago, right, when the RSI was screaming over 80, all right, on the SPY, and then we saw a big red day out of nowhere, okay, a big outside bearish candle. Remember all the bears were celebrating and cheering. Well, I mean, we cooled off, guys. We needed to cool off. The RSI was extremely overbought, and it makes a lot of sense. And after that dip, we've actually started to recover since then. Okay. And if we take a look here, the 1 month returns after the RSI, after over 40% of components make a 14-day RSI over 70. Again, the 1 month return, 4%, the 3 month return, 8%, 6 month, 13%, and the 12-month return, 25%. So let's start combining some of our data here. Okay. So we go over this data, and if January can be all green, the average return is about 27% for the next year. Well, the 12-month return after the conditions that we just saw in the market on average are 25%. So we have a couple data sets here suggesting that, hey, if we continue this bullishness into January and we get, the trifecta, the January trifecta, it's very possible we could see 20% returns next year. Now, that's not something I'm going to bet on and buy call options for 2025 exactly 20% higher than where we're at. But that's something that you want to keep your mind open to. Now, if Santa should fail to call, bears may come to broad and wall. So if Santa doesn't show up, January and 2024 could be in big trouble. Okay, so this is some of the data showing you guys that, hey, maybe the bears do have something to stand on. And the next month is really going to give us a lot of clarity statistically into what could potentially happen the next year. And so when we see the Santa goes back to the North Pole and the Santa Claus rally is negative, Okay. 3 out of 5 times the market has had negative returns. Okay. And if the Santa Claus rally fails, a lot of the time here we see that January ends up being red, and we talked about the trifecta there. And there's a big, saying basically that as January goes, so the rest of the year goes. Okay. And so people oftentimes look to January to really lead the market and kind of give us some clues into what's going to happen towards the rest of the year. Now, Tesla is a big stock that I've been watching, okay? If we are supposed to get this Santa Claus rally, I definitely have my eyes on Tesla. Now, there's a couple reasons, okay? There's obviously some bulls out there. Market Watch put out an article talking about Dan Ives, I believe, saying that it can rise to a 1 trillion market cap in 2024. But when you take a look at the top 5 traded securities by the year, Tesla is above SPY, QQQ, NVIDIA, Apple. It's absolutely amazing. Okay. And it's slated to see the highest net inflows from retail traders from any security in 2023. That's what the research shows. And again, we're just taking a look here at the data, and Tesla seeing massive inflows versus something like the SPY, like the S&P 500. So more retail traders are buying into Tesla than they are into SPY. That's a lot of momentum there. Okay. And we'll see if Tesla can, crack through and get one last breakout maybe in January or maybe to end the year. It's definitely one that I'm watching right now. So we will break down the Tesla chart. Justin, we have Nancy Pelosi bought NVIDIA call options worth up to $5 million. Call options are just simply option contracts that are bullish, okay, betting that a stock is going to go up. She spent $5 million worth on call options, okay? Then why has the market even been rallying? Well, use some common sense here, right? We've been looking for inflation to cool down. CPI came in pretty good. And then this is PCE right here. And on a quarter over quarter basis, it's at that 2% target. So CPI, PPI, and PCE are looking favorable, right? And what the market's doing is we're seeing multiple expansion at the moment, okay? And the reason we're seeing multiple expansion is because of the fact that the market is now pricing in lower interest rates and Fed rate cuts. Now, if they're wrong about that, and we don't get the Fed rate cuts by the time that the markets price them in, well, the market's going to have to reevaluate, right? And we may see some type of correction. But if they are right about it, at the end of the day, nobody even knows where this stuff is going to go because they're pricing it all in right now. So when the time comes, who's to say that the market isn't due for a pullback once we actually get those cuts? Remember, oftentimes the Fed typically, historically, will cut when something is pretty bad with the economy. Now, there's a lot of this time is different going on in the market. And so rather than just trying to speculate that, hey, this time is going to be different, I really just try to look at the data and go over, what statistical data tells me and how I can potentially use that to get an edge. So I'm sharing that info with you guys. Sentiment votes, we saw a 1-year bullish high, here recently, last week. When it comes to bullish sentiment in the market. So even though we had that big red day, okay, and the bears thought that they finally had it, the bulls just have been buying up the dip and they continue to buy up the dip. And it's not just retail traders. There's lots of institutions, lots of hedge funds that are playing catch up right now, okay? They have clients calling them saying, hey, NVIDIA's up hundreds of percent. How come I don't have more NVIDIA stock? Hey, Tesla stock ran up over 100%. How come I don't, have more Tesla? Or how come, I'm only getting 5% on my bonds right now? You told me to go all in on bonds and only, keep 10, 20% in stocks. And everyone else, at my Sunday barbecues is bragging to me about how their portfolio is up 20%, about how they're up 30, 40, 50%. So there's going to be a lot of chasing going on. And I think that that's been a big factor that we've seen here into the year end, since November really is we're seeing a lot of chasing where people are chasing performance and they don't know where to go. So they're going into what's worked. All right. And another thing that I've recently found pretty interesting is that we've seen a lot of the other names, okay, in the market, and I broke this down in a previous video. So you have the Mag 7, and then you have the 493 other stocks in the market. Well, here recently, the other 493 stocks in the market actually outperformed the Magnificent 7. And so what I think, in what I'm speculating, is that a lot of the people that were in those Magnificent 7 stocks they said, hey, the year's almost over, right? And I'm talking about in November. They're saying, hey, the year's almost over. I'm up huge on these positions. Maybe I'm now overweight. Maybe now my portfolio is overweight some of these big stocks, right? Maybe it's overweight Google. Maybe it's overweight Microsoft. Maybe it's overweight Nvidia. Let me trim some profits in there and put it into some of the plays that have been lagging behind and see if those can catch up. And we've seen a lot of stocks that were doing and trading very poorly this year really turn around over the last couple months. And a lot of that's been due to treasury yields. Okay. And like I mentioned, interest rates pricing in rate cuts. All right. And a lot of those stocks that were negatively impacted very hard in 2023, they are seeing a strong rebound here towards the end of the year. Now, these are the holiday trading hours. So if you guys want to take a screenshot of this, just so you guys know, okay, obviously there's New Year's Day coming up very, very soon. But then there's going to be MLK, Washington's birthday. These are all days that the New York Stock Exchange markets observe as U.S. holidays. So you want to pay attention to these just so you don't get caught off guard or, be surprised by anything, right? Obviously, Good Friday, Memorial Day, Juneteenth is now recognized. Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Okay, obviously all the big ones. Right. Now, before we go any further and we get into charts and technical analysis and the key levels I'm watching, remember that the content provided on this channel is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be relied upon as legal, financial, or investment advice. So be sure to read through the disclaimer. And I actually started a completely free newsletter for you guys called Investment Intelligence. There's a link in the description. You can sign up for that. Giving out free valuable content, right? Whether it's trading content, finance content, market updates, market perspectives, a little bit of tutorials. I also try to give out 1 to 2 free trade ideas every single week. And this is what this is one on Tesla, but this is what the trade ideas will look like, right? We'll highlight the chart conditions, go over what it is that we're looking at, and show you the actual chart so you guys know what to look for, know the levels of support, know the levels of resistance, where you should potentially put a stop loss at, where you should potentially take some profits at, and go over all of that for you. And if you take a look at some of the most recent newsletters, right? Teladoc ran up over 14.5% since we wrote it. PayPal went up over 10% since we wrote the PayPal one, and Rivian went up over 40%. Many of these trade ideas have worked out very, very well. I'm not telling you guys that every single one is going to be profitable every single time, but what I look for is high quality setups. So you don't have to worry about me spamming your inbox with 5 to 10, different stocks, different trade ideas every single day, every single morning and night, really just spamming you guys and then trying to brag about one of them that works. But rather, I'm looking for high quality setups, trying to show you guys, what high quality setups look like, how to define your risk, different ways you can manage your risk, as well as set profit targets. Now, you can also just join the Investment Intelligence Discord itself, right? We talked about Teladoc, we talked about PayPal. There's been many other plays that we're looking at in the Investment Intelligence Discord. And in there, it's only $10 a month. So that's less than a cup of coffee a week. And you get access to all of the different trade ideas. I know there's a lot of traders that have smaller portfolios that may be trading hundreds or even $1,000 or $2. And so I'm not trying to squeeze you guys or make you guys go broke just to see all of the different analysis or trade ideas. So I'd love to see you in there. If you don't want to pay the $10 a month, you can always just sign up for the free newsletter. Now, let's get into TLT and break down TLT at the moment. This is something that I'm not necessarily, raging bullish on bonds right now or extremely bullish on bonds. Rather, I'm personally looking for a pullback, right? I'm not really aggressively shorting TLT or shorting TLT at all at the moment, but there are some warning signs that we've been going over. Now, we had a nice rounded bottom here initially with a bullish divergence. So if you're not familiar with bullish divergence, there's a low here, a lower low here, and a lower low here. So notice how price action made lower lows, but the RSI is a relative strength indicator. So it's going to give you the strength of a stock at its given levels. And you can see we made a low, a higher low, and a higher low at the same exact points that the stock was making lower lows. So in this case, we have a bullish divergence, a positive divergence, indicating we could potentially see bullish activity in the future. We ended up putting in a nice rounded bottom here, and the stock absolutely took off to the races. And if we take a look at what's happening now, right, this is a little bit of a rounded top, guys. This is not screaming bullish right here. Now, many people would say that, hey, this is bull flag consolidation. And I would say, hey, you're correct. We're really just waiting to look to see if we break out to the upside, targeting 101.55, or if we break down to the downside, targeting 97. Okay. For now, we're really just consolidating sideways. But what I'm really paying attention to is the MACD. The MACD is very close to curling over and crossing right here on the daily time frame. This has been generally a good sell signal, right? We had a MACD crossover here, and you can see that the price fell sharply. MACD crossover here, you can see price fell sharply. And so it is a potential possibility that we could see TLT get some significant pullback. Okay, if the MACD crosses over, crosses below this red line right here. Now, we also recently just broke this, initial bullish divergence trend line, right? So we talked about the initial bullish divergence with these three higher lows. Take a look how we came back and retested it again, and then retested it again, and we actually just broke through it right now. So if we wanted to, we could say that this is actually a little bit of a bearish divergence at the moment. Take a look how we're basically trading in a bullish channel right here. And then if we look at our RSI right here, we're basically trading in a little bit of a bearish channel right here. Okay, so we're to draw a trend line like this and a trend line like this, and you can see that one is going up and you can see that the other is going down. So we do have a little bit of bearish divergence, nothing super strong or crazy, but I'm really just looking to see and watch and have some patience. Remember, guys, cash is a position. So the worst thing you can do is FOMO into something, whether it's a long or short, because you just feel like you missed out. Okay. Fear of missing out will absolutely wreck your portfolio. And even if you only make a few trades the entire year, it's better to have confidence and feel, confidence in your play and have calculated moves versus letting your emotions run the way. Now, TNX is going to be pretty important if you're trying to trade TLT. Now, TNX is going to be your 10-year treasury yield. Remember that as treasury yields go up, so in this period here where the 10-year treasury yield was rising and extremely bullish, we saw TLT going down. These are going to move opposite of each other. TNX is the most commonly looked at and the most commonly used. Okay. So TNX has really just been staying below this 3.92 level right here. Okay, we flipped it from support right here 3 days in a row to resistance 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trading days in a row. Now it's been resistance. If we break above 3.92, there's a small gap up to fill at 4. And so I do think that TNX could head up to 4% if we break out. Pay attention how the daily MACD on TNX is also very close to curling up to the upside, and how the TNX RSI is extremely oversold and really been hovering in oversold territory for almost a month, right? So, it would make sense just from a technical perspective, like solely a technical perspective, if TNX was to bounce a little bit and if TLT was to pull back a little bit. Okay. Now I'm not going to aggressively trade this and try to speculate and act like I know which way it's going to go. I'm just going to wait for the next opportunity, right? And here it's not screaming a long opportunity to me, but it's not necessarily screaming a short. Okay, because it could have 1 or 2 bearish days, and then we could see TLT just go right back on the horse. Okay, it's been a very bullish trend up here, and I'm not looking to, as I said in the beginning of the video, there's not much that I'm looking to get in front of the freight train that have been so bullish here recently. If the trend changes, right, and there's a shift in trend, as there was over here when we were initially bullish on treasury yields the whole time, I said, hey, if we break through here, the trend is going to change, right? And we went over the levels that I thought that TNX could come down to, and we came down to the 3rd level here, and we pretty much have flipped it to resistance. So now it's a good time to wait again and see what's going to happen, right? Where are things going to go? How are things going to develop from here? Now, we mentioned the S&P 500 and showed a lot of the data over the S&P 500. If you're in the Discord, that we were telling people, and kind of going long right over here. It made a lot of sense from a risk to reward ratio to go long. We also had my favorite chart pattern of 2023, the inverse bump and run, and it fired off magnificently here. And we actually did hit my wave 5 targets to the upside at 475.38. And we really haven't been able to, do anything significant above there, right? We've creeped above it a couple times, but nothing significant so far. Here is that real bearish day where, all the bears were celebrating. Okay. And, just take a look what's happened since. We just continue to go higher. Now, there is a little bit of bearish divergence forming here on the RSI. Okay. I'm not trying to sound like a broken record by saying the same terms, but these are just concepts that you want to pay attention to and focus on, right? Now, one mistake that people make with the RSI and with divergences is they think that this, where we're making these lower highs, means that we for sure have to make lower highs on the SPY and we have to break down. Another way to use this is a potential breakout trend line. So if we were to break out from this trend line here, then most likely that's going to coincide with the SPY breaking out to the upside here as well. Okay. And obviously, if we continue to reject it, okay, then that would result in the SPY going down lower. Okay. Now, if the SPY does reverse, okay, and it starts to pull back, and let's say we break this short-term uptrend line right here, right, 462 is an area where I'd be looking for some potential support. All right, but for right now, as I mentioned, I'm just not trying to get in the way of this freight train. We've been looking at a bunch of other names in the Discord that are not as overbought as some of the names that we've went over in today's video. Maybe not as overbought as the SPY, maybe not as overbought as QQQ, different things like that. But we will talk about NVIDIA, okay? NVIDIA had a nice bull flag breakout, okay? So you see the flag pull, you see the flag itself, you see breakout, retest. Now we're looking to push higher. If this bull flag plays out, guys, NVIDIA can go up to 563. And I really think that it's just going to happen once we close above 500, right? Once we start closing above 500, all the shorts from here, here, and here, they're going to get squeezed out. And NVIDIA can run up very, very fast. And I know 560 seems pretty extreme, but if you think about it, a 10% move from NVIDIA is basically $50. Okay. So, you know, and NVIDIA there's been plenty of times where NVIDIA has run up 5% or more in a single day. So, you know, there's no timeline on this right here. Okay. But just saying that, you know, I think that if we can hold above 500, really flip that area to support from resistance, the bull flag target is also going to be 563. Okay. Now you can also say that this is a cup and then this is a handle. And if we break out from here, again, this could be another bullish pattern right here. So, you know, cup and handle, whether you want to call it that, whether you want to call it an ascending triangle, right? I mean, there's lots of bullish patterns that you could call this, but NVIDIA looks pretty bullish to me. Honestly, there's some support levels to the downside, but if this thing fires to the upside, I really wouldn't be surprised. Tesla also looks really good to me as well. Tesla, I want to see, can it hold 256? Okay, if it can hold above 256, I think we have potential to come up here and hit 287/288. Okay, that's really where I'm looking for Tesla to go in a little bit of the shorter term. You know, we went over the triangle pattern that we had here. Tesla looks like a very clean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? If we go back and reference SPY's chart, and we talked about, you know, markets moving in 5-wave and 3-wave structures, but we had 1 up, 2 down, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and Tesla seems like it's, you know, right there, potentially on the verge of making wave 5 highs in the future. Okay. Now we got the breakout retest of this trend line, and we're really just stuck here at 256, which was the initial profit target on the initial breakout here. This is when, you know, I sold most of my Tesla. But I do have a little position in Tesla right now. We'll see what it does. Again, 256 is really that line in the sand of resistance. If we can flip that to support, you know, then I do think it's very possible this can head up, you know, to the 280s, if not even more. You know, after holding the wave 4 pullbacks here really nicely, looking for, you know, wave 5 continuation to the upside. That's pretty much it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you like the analysis and you ever feel like you want to do a coaching session, maybe you have some swing trading strategies you want to go over, day trading dynamics, how I draw supply and demand zones, how to use the fibs, the Elliott wave, different things like that. You can always come to my Ko-Fi page, click on the commissions tab, and you can book a 30-minute or a 1-hour personal session with me directly through my Ko-Fi page. You know, you can also just sign up for the free investment intelligence newsletter, giving out free valuable content, free trade ideas every single week, such as some of the ones that we highlighted over here. And, you know, for $10 a month, you guys can join the investment intelligence Discord, get access to all the different analysis, all the different trade ideas that I'm looking at, as well as the different resources I have in there, such as custom scripts, indicators, and also, you know, all of the Discord members, they do get 20% off any of the coaching sessions. You know, so if you guys ever feel like you just need that one-on-one interaction, feel free to reach out and I'll be glad to help.